Hello everyone, welcome back to my course on enhancing soft skills and personality. I am Ravichandran from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences of IIT Kanpur. I have been giving this course to you for the past 1 week, and this is the unit 5, and this is the last unit and the last lesson for first week. Now we will conclude this week's lesson with the third part of mindset 3, and in this lesson I would like to discuss with you about some secrets of developing growth mindsets, which is very important in terms of developing and enhancing your soft skills as well as personality. Before I start discussing about the secrets, as I do normally, I would like to talk to you first about the highlights of the last lesson. What did we do in the last lesson? We basically discussed about learning mindsets and how you can develop learning mindsets. That is, how generally you can change your attitude to develop as a good learner. Okay. In that lesson, we understood that one's perception about oneself as a learner determines the way a person learns a subject. A person's mindset towards learning will affect the decisions he or she makes towards his or her learning objectives. A person with a fixed mindset, in that sense, will believe that intelligence will be fixed. So the person with fixed mindset will never think that intelligence can be changed. He or she always believes that it's a given trait. But a person with a growth mindset believes in the growth of intelligence and learns from any new field also. There is nothing unfamiliar for the person with a growth mindset because the person is open, willing to explore. By consistent practice, one can change established beliefs. So I ended up by giving some tips for developing growth mindset, such as hard working, gaining new knowledge, willing to take risks or embracing challenges, and I said that this will generally facilitate growth mindset. Apart from that, working on failure instead of getting stuck by failure or feeling that it is a setback. Working on failure by focusing on different strategies and more efforts can contribute to success. You should also use self-talk to eliminate fixed mindset. The self-talk is something that you tell yourself that when the negative mindset, the fixed mindset comes and tells you, oh no, you can't do this, you will begin by saying, no, I can do this. I'll at least try. I'll give a good try. I will work hard. I will try to use my willpower. I'll try to achieve this. I'll do this. It's possible for me. As against your negative mindset that keeps telling you, no, you can't do this. It will be difficult for you. So use the self-talk. Even when the negative mind is trying to tell you, it's trying to pull you down with a fixed mindset, you always try to say something positive about your ability, your activity, and the task that you have taken in hand so that you can accomplish it successfully. Now, going to today's lesson, I said I'll try to give some secrets of developing growth mindset in a sense that they are not secrets, they are rather open secrets. But just to put it in a way that you really feel that they are secrets you need to explore. The first secret is that you should be like a baby. Now, why do I say this? If you look at a baby is never seen unmotivated. A baby is always doing something, always moving, always active. And it's a challenge for the parents, especially for the first 2-3 years, to monitor the baby. It becomes a 24/7 activity, that it's a full-time job. Why? Because the baby is open. The baby is never afraid of exploring, whether it is playing with fire or getting drenched in rain or playing with running tap or eating mud outside or chewing slippers or any dirty substance. It's not concerned, it's not bothered. It wants to use the teeth, explore what is there. So that openness without any bias, without any thinking that this is good, this is bad, this is dirty, this is ugly, this is beautiful. So, without this bias, without this prejudice, the baby is open. So, try to have that kind of openness, be like a baby. As babies, we always had this growth mindset, but we developed fixity by accepting the views of others on us. What kind of views? Most of these views are negative views. Most of the views came out from others based on their own inadequacies, or based on their own jealous feelings about us, or based on their own fears and apprehensions which might have happened in their life. But they didn't want you also to explore, they didn't also want you to take challenges. No, statements like telling you that you belong to a particular caste, you belong to a particular religion, you belong to a particular race, so you are suited only for a particular kind of work that particular kind of religious group or racial group or casteist group would always be doing. So, this is actually a view, but a negative view, that sometimes conditions when you grow up, okay, when you grow up and when you are born, there is a slight difference. When you are born, you were completely with the open mindset. You didn't know which religion you belong to, you didn't know which caste you belong to, you didn't know what race, you didn't know whether black or white is beautiful. But as you grew up in the society, people started imposing their views on you, and that gave you the kind of inhibition. People started telling you that you can develop expertise only in the fields where your parents have expertise. That if you are a doctor, you can become a doctor only if your parents are doctor. If your parents are engineers, then you can also become an engineer. But if your father is a cobbler, you will also become a cobbler. If your father is a carpenter, then you will also become a carpenter, and so on. So, this is again a kind of fixed mindset that was imposed on us by the people around us. As I said, that's because of their own inadequacies, their own fears, their own apprehensions, and sometimes it's because of their own jealousies. They don't want to help you to grow. They don't want to be a facilitator so that you grow. They're afraid that you may grow, you may outsmart them, and then that may lead to highlighting their own inadequacy. So, that's their business, their worry. So, you might have also heard of people telling that you will excel only in that kind of environment with certain conditions, but you are in this kind of surroundings. So, you are in a bad setup, you are born to a poor family, you are born to a group of people who have no idea about these kind of technicalities and talents. So, it is not possible. But you should understand that intelligence is actually not something that is given to you by DNA or by heredity. Intelligence can never be improved. That's what people want to tell you, despite your hard work and determination. But with startling discoveries in the field of growth mindset, you should believe that intelligence is something that can be developed. It is malleable. So, your brain can be grown, it can be developed, it can be enhanced. So, first secret is that be like a baby, at least when you are initiating something, at least when you start a new venture, be like a baby, think like a baby, act like a baby, be explorative, don't be afraid of failures. Now, the next important thing that Carol Dweck and others who talk about growth mindset highlight is in terms of human relationships. This is the next important secret, that you should learn to live with critical people. Now, you may find it very funny, and but this is a very interesting observation, because generally in human relationships, it's normal and natural to like someone who idolizes, prizes and worships you. We all feel good when somebody appreciates it, and we all feel happy. So when people price us, but that's not going to help us in terms of developing a growth mindset. And people with fixed mindset generally try to gel with people who normally flatter them or who try to protect them in such a manner that they never criticize, they never say anything bad about them, and even if they do a wrong thing, the people around never point it out. So you all know the story of that emperor's new cloth. So the person who made the new cloth wanted to make the emperor realize that he is surrounded by flatterers, and in fact he didn't make any cloth. He made the emperor just walk nude before others, and nobody said anything. So they said that the cloth is looking good, it's wonderful, it's fabulous. But until the emperor looked at himself on the mirror, then he realized what kind of people that he was surrounded by. In human relationships, if you want to have a growth mindset, okay, enjoy having people around you who flatter all the time, but you learn to live with people who are critical, people who don't mind calling a spade, people sometimes who are very brutal in pointing out your mistakes, the errors that you commit. It hurts, it pains, but then if you have the growth mindset, and if you want to develop that growth mindset, you should be receptive to people who are critical. Now, the relationship which one keeps the other in pedestal, okay, so worshipping, like you are the most beautiful person, you are the most handsome man, you are the most intelligent, you are the smartest ever, okay, keeping the other one in the pedestal, touching the feet and then saying that no one is like you. Now, this will actually lead to stagnancy, it will lead to fixity. For growth in a relationship, partners need to be critical where required. Okay, there are occasions when you really need to give genuine appreciation, do that. But there are times when you actually need to point out to your friend, to your spouse, to your children, to your boss, that what the person is doing is not correct, or it could be done in a much better manner. There are some shortcomings in this. Sometimes people don't know how to say this. So maybe they lack in soft skills, maybe they are so rude, but then just beyond the ego hurt, try to reflect on the actual point they were trying to make. If even an iota of truth is there in the point, in terms of developing yourself is there, accept it. Now that acceptance will make you develop this growth mindset. For growth in a relationship, partners need to be critical where required, even, and I would rather say especially in long-term relationships, whether business partnerships or in marital relationships or long-time friendship. You need to have somebody who will point out your errors, not the one who will be blind to the errors and take you to a very huge pitfall, downfall from which you will never be able to come out. It's only by giving a realistic picture of one's achievements and shortcomings and by accepting it positively, relationships will thrive. So this is very important. As I said, the general human tendency is to seek a kind of appreciation in whatever you do. But having understood that part, it's important that you need to also give contingency to that part in which we also have our own limitations, and there should be somebody who should be able to see that without any fear or favor. That person should be able to tell us this is the limitation, this is the shortcoming, and only with this person we will be able to grow in terms of human relationship and grow our own intellect and emotion and develop our own selves. The next secret is that you should not believe in negative stereotypes, or you should not be vulnerable to stereotype threats. Let me explain what I mean by these negative stereotypes as well as stereotype threats. Stereotype itself is a reductive, fixed image or oversimplified opinion that categorizes a group or an individual in a generalized and prejudiced manner. So, for example, a person who is drunk. So, there is a stereotype that he will never tell the truth. So, a person, let us say, is sent to prison. He comes out of the prison. There is a stereotypical thinking that, oh, this person will always be a thief or always be a murderer. The stereotypical thinking will never give the other person to come out of the patternized mold in which that person is fitted. So, stereotype is given in terms of sometimes religion, caste, race, sometimes in terms of height. So, height people are people who are tall are like this, people who are short are like this, people who speak this language are like this, people who eat this food are like this. Now, all these are generalized, categorized statements which actually are not tested scientifically and verified individually, and individual may be completely different, okay, but we generalize and put that individual in a group and use our own prejudiced opinion to judge that person or rather misjudge the person. But the most dangerous thing is the stereotype threats. What is a stereotype threat? As defined by Steele and Aronson, it refers to being at risk of confirming as a self-characteristic a negative stereotype about one's social group. What does it mean? So, I already told you about negative social group, negative stereotypes that affects the social group, and the social group has also become negative because of the stereotypes. So, stereotype threat, it says that I belong to one community which lacks in certain skills, and because that has been told to me again and again and again, so my own community has believed in that negative stereotyping and I conform to it. Okay, I start adhering to the belief, and by doing this I underperform even in a situation where I may have the ability to do it much better. So, that is stereotype threat, that it refers to the being at risk of confirming as a self characteristic a negative stereotype about one social group. Now, Steele and Aronson first used the term to prove that black students, so their studies were conducted from how racial stereotypes are affecting individual performances. So, they studied the first year students, the black freshmen, and even the second year students, the sophomores. So, they studied how they were performing in environment on standardized tests where it is believed that white students would always do better and where their race was emphasized, where it was clearly given as a belief that black students will not do well in this standardized test and white students will always excel. Where race was emphasized, they were not able to perform well because they were influenced by the stereotype threat. However, when race was not emphasized, black students performed better, if not better, equivalently, equally with the white students. So, their results try to prove that it is not ability but it is the belief and it's the stereotype threat that makes a person conform to it. The other rather threatening factor that they point out is that all of us at some point or other, in some areas or other, are vulnerable to this stereotype threat. We may be excelling in something, but in some unknown area, some new area, there may be a stereotype threat that will be petrifying our performance. We turn into stones when we enter into that area because of the stereotype threat that tells us that no, you cannot do this. So, the lesson, succumbing to stereotype threat can undermine one's ability to perform. So, being aware of this and telling you again and again, asking you, am I succumbing to stereotype threat? Is it not a stereotype threat that is undermining that ability? So, that will actually help you to come out of it, combined with hard work and your ability to confront challenges. Look at another stereotype threat or another negative stereotype that psychologists have disproved, that is with relation to the general thinking that boys have better aptitude for STEM, short for fields which are related to science, technology, engineering and maths. So, the general thinking that females cannot do well in science and technology, engineering, because basically their mathematical ability is not as good as males. Now, this thinking, this negative stereotypes was also disproved again by a group of psychologists, and they introduced another interesting factor. They said that this can be changed if you are able to develop a conducive sense of belonging in the individual. Let us try to understand what was the study and what lesson we need to take from the study. The secret that you need to follow or adhere to understand is that belong where you need to be. If you have to be in a group, if you have to be in an academic group, okay, if you have to be in a professional group, you belong, you try to have the sense of belonging. What was the experiment conducted with relation to this? Catherine Good and others, they conducted some experiments on boys and girls, males and females, in terms of their mathematical ability. And in the experiment conducted in various universities in the US, they identified that sense of belonging is an important variant, is an important factor in the representation gap between males and females in math ability. Generally, it was pointed out like women lack desire. They are not interested in doing maths, they are dull. But they established that women's lack of desire is produced by environmental factors that deter their sense of belonging. First of all, the group in which they should belong to, the academic group, itself tries to perpetuate negative stereotypes, saying that no, you cannot do this, you are a girl, you are a girl. But converse to that, they found out that if once a person feels fit in an academic community, she will perform better. So, it is important that she has to feel that I belong to this group, the group is validating my contribution, the group is making me feel that I am equal to them. If not, they are also appreciating occasionally that I am doing better than them. I belong to this group and I can perform better. If the academic community can make her feel this way, she will naturally perform better. So, Good, Rutten and Dweck, based on their discovery, they make this statement. Let us look at this, quote unquote, When sense of belonging is protected by learning environments that convey a malleable view of intelligence, students may be less vulnerable to the impact of negative stereotypes on achievement and intention to remain in the domain. Simply, what they try to tell is, when sense of belonging is protected by learning environments, when the student, especially here a girl student, in terms of developing maths or science or technology or engineering ability, if she is made to feel protected in the learning environment, that conveys a malleable view of intelligence. The view is that we are giving you an environment, we are facilitating where you can grow your intelligence. So, if this kind of environment is given, then students may be less vulnerable to the impact of negative stereotypes. Rather, they become immune, they are protected from negative stereotypes and intention to remain in the domain. The second part implies that some people occasionally do well, but then they give it up. They feel that, okay, at undergraduate level I did that, but then at postgraduate level I don't want to follow, or at postgraduate level I did that, but for research at PhD level I don't want to do. So their intention to remain in the domain is also conditioned and governed by the sense of belonging that is given and protected by learning environments. Now, can you actually wait for that kind of learning environment? Some of you are actually gifted, some of you are lucky, some of you are blessed. You may fortunately find yourself in that kind of learning environment, but most of us are not that blessed. Now, in that case, I suggest that you should contribute to create a sense of belonging to where you need to be. This means identify the academic community, the professional group that you should be. Sometimes the group will not accept you, sometimes the group may insult you, the group may humiliate you, the group may reject you, but keep that in mind that this is a kind of prerequisite for you to become an active member in the group. You have to convince them that you are equal. In certain aspects, you are even better than most of the group members. And by positive reinforcement of consistent good behavior, some members will slowly start accepting you. And sooner or later, you will also become a very active member of that group. So, contribute to create a sense of belonging instead of waiting that you will find a group where you will have that sense of belonging. Okay. So, if you wait, then that wait is never going to end. But you identify groups and then you try to contribute, you try to share, you try to give, okay, and then people will accept you. Now, with this, I just want you to also remember one more interesting psychological experiment, that is in terms of Hawthorne experiment, and remember Hawthorne effect, which came out of Hawthorne experiment. What is this? Now, Hawthorne effect generally refers to the alteration of behavior by the subjects of a study due to their awareness of being observed. Hawthorne effect refers to the alteration of behavior by the subjects of a study due to their awareness of being observed. Now, this will become clear when I tell you what was the experiment and the story behind the experiment. Now, this effect is actually based on experiments conducted by Elton Mayo in the 1920s at the Hawthorne plant of the Western Electric Co. in Chicago. Now, the company managers and CEOs, they wanted them to conduct certain specific experiments in order to study the productivity. So, they wanted to find out what could be done to motivate their workers and make them perform better and increase the productivity by which the company can also earn better. So, generally it was about to study the workers' productivity, and then the methods in which they studied was based on the previous theories of motivation, previous norms about work environment, in which it was thought that people who work in dim light will perform lesser than people who work in bright lights. Okay. In terms of cleanliness, and then in terms of increasing or decreasing the duration. So, they selected a group of people for the experiment, and then they started, and then they conducted in various times different parameters, such as they increase the light, they decrease the light condition, they made them work for short periods with breaks, they gave them food in between the breaks, they made them work without food in between the breaks, they kept the environment very neat and tidy, they kept the environment very ugly, very dirty. They kept on changing the duration, they made them work for long hours, they made them work for short hours. Now, the hypothesis, the thinking they had before they started conducting the experiments were like this, that if you give them favorable working condition, if you give a conducive environment, the productivity will increase. So, if the environment is dirty, if they work in low levels of light, if you make them work for longer hours, their productivity will naturally go down. That was the belief, that was the hypothesis they had. But the results they got, you wouldn't believe that it startled the people who conducted the experiments. What were the results? The results, despite the fact that they lowered the light, they increased the light, they gave food, they didn't give food, they made the environment dirty, they made it look very beautiful, they increased the duration, they made them work for long hours, they made them work for short hours. Now, despite of whatever variables, the performance went on increasing. Nowhere they showed that the performance will go down. Now, what went wrong or what went right? What happened? So, again they started analyzing the subject, that is the participants who actually were experimented on. Then they realized that in fact the experiment changed its direction. Then they realized it's important to study these participants. What happened? The participants who were selected for the experiments were actually all women workers. The reason for which they selected the women workers was particularly because they were small in number, and it will be easy to put them in a group and then make them work, and then they can study them easily. But what happened to the women workers? They got a feeling that they were selected among thousands of people who are working in the plant, and they were a chosen few. They developed a sense of elitist belonging. They felt that they are rather selected because they are the best workers. Okay. Come what may, they decided that they should give them their best performance. So, whatever they did, they tried to show them that their performance will never diminish, instead of whatever changes they will make in the environment, despite incentives, despite any extra benefits. They are willing to work so hard and then try to always increase the level of their performance. Now, in short, the Hawthorne studies found that workers were more responsive to group involvement and managerial attention than to financial incentives. It is not money finally that is going to give the job satisfaction, or escalate the work performance, but it is the attention that people are given to and the sense of belonging they developed and the privileged position they experienced. So, that actually contributed to higher level of productivity. So, overall, if you develop positive emotion in any given situation and sense of belonging, both can work wonders. So, remember Hawthorne effect. So, it completely changed the experimenters' hypothesis and then gave them new ideas in terms of motivation. It made them believe that it is not money, but it is esteem, it is emotion, it is sense of belonging. So, these are factors which are actually important in terms of productivity. Now, in terms of developing your growth mindset, these factors are also important. Now, finally, to conclude, I would say that overall when you develop your growth mindset, it is not easy to develop it overnight, but make incremental changes. That is, first change, but then make incremental changes, that is slightly increase your performance, slightly try to do something better than it was before, increment even inch by inch, step by step, brick by brick, as they say, is the wall, is the building that gets constructed. So, one step at a time, but always try to move forward and move in the right direction. That's enough. You will find epic change and monumental transformation in the long run. So, with that note, so I would like to conclude with another thought that has been attributed to Albert Einstein, and which is somewhat like my overall motto of this course, which I have said many times in the previous one. Remember that education is not learning of facts, it is not accumulating degrees, it is not saying that you have this degree, that degree, you know this information, that information, but the training of mind to think and to think in the right direction. For further reference, if you want to know more about Hawthorne experiment, I have given an online link from Boundless Management, which is available on online. And if you want to know more about the math ability experiment conducted by Catherine Good and others, it is also available in the form of a paper online. If you want to read more about stereotype threat, you can also refer to the book, and part of which is published as an article in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. The reference is also there. And there is also another interesting article by Steve Stroessner and Catherine Good on stereotype threat and overview, which very simply summarizes what stereotype threat can do to people. So, stay committed to developing and enhancing your personality, soft skills, first by developing this growth mindset. This is the final lesson of this first week, and at the end of the first week, keep this in your mind, be tuned for growth mindset, and then we will go to other aspects of enhancing your soft skills and personality. Thank you for watching this video. We will come back and then meet in the next week's lesson. Thank you once again.